Hey everybody. So I don't know how many of you have heard about some of the changes that are happening within the craft industry right now, especially paper crafting, because of the largest United States-based distributor having a fire. But if you haven't, stay tuned because I'm going to share with you what happened and how it's going to impact you and I as consumers. So if you're not familiar, Notions Marketing is the largest distributor of paper crafting supplies, craft supplies in general, but specifically for us, paper crafting supplies in the United States. They supply over 10,000 retailers with stuff. They stock over 150,000 items, everything from yarn to literal paper and everything in between, including even school supplies. So why do you care? Well, here's the problem. Notions Marketing doesn't do business they don't distribute to big box stores. They don't distribute to your Michaels or to your Hobby Lobby or any other large box, Walmart, Target, whoever that carries these items. They distribute to your local stores and your local online retailers. So this is what it looks like. This is my very rudimentary drawing of the flow. So we start with the manufacturers. They are the top of the heap. Those are your Tim Holtz, your Echo Park, 49 Market, Graphic 45, Ranger. These are your manufacturers. Okay, these are the people that have designers in-house. They're creating the things that you want. They make those things, and then for big boxes, this is where it stops. Big box stores, because they buy in such quantity, buy directly from manufacturers because they can afford to. For a regular local scrapbook store or your online retailer like myself, we have to go through a distributor because we can't afford to buy the bulk that the manufacturers require you to buy. So, for example, if I wanted to buy sets of ink pads, we'll say, like the little distress ink pads from Tim Holtz, Ranger, who makes those, then if I go direct to Ranger, they may make me buy 12 packs of the same color. Or if they're coming in those little 3-packs or 4-packs, 12 packs of those for a minimum price. Whereas if I go to Notions, who is a distributor, they only require me to buy 3. So I don't have to have as much stock and as much of my own money into the stock that is on my shelves. And the same is true for your local scrapbook store. So your local scrapbook store more than likely deals with Notions. There used to be several distributors in the United States, and most of them are gone. Notions is kind of it. Then, once it comes from Notions, it goes to your scrapbook store, and then it comes to you as a consumer. So here's the thing. Keep in mind that Notions is under a parent company, okay? This parent company also owns American Crafts, We Are Makers, Tonic Studios, Basil Basics, Crate Paper, Color Book, and DCWV, and maybe more that I'm not aware of. All of these product lines are going to be impacted by this fire that happened back in June. It happened on June 7th. And it's going to impact all of us in interesting ways. So, Notions has multiple warehouses. That's how big of a distributor they are. And the main warehouse is where they do all of their shipping and receiving out of. That's also where all these other brands have their offices. That is the building, of course, that was on fire. And of course, there's fire damage to all this, but there's also water damage and smoke damage. And their insurance company is, of course, helping them assess all the damage. But the problem is that it's huge and it's going to take a long time because they're not just going to assess the damage on product. They have to look at every desk, every phone, every computer, like every single thing that Notions uses to work with customers and distribute product, ship product, everything. All that has to be looked through, assessed for value, and then a report needs to, like damage report needs to be created. So Those of us who are retailers who work with Notions received an email on Friday the 3rd, and it said basically they're closed until further notice, at least 6 months, probably longer, because it's going to take that long for the insurance company to get through everything and write the report that they need to write. A couple things with that. First of all, know that meant that they had to lay off almost their entire staff, almost everybody, because they don't have work for them to do. They can't ship anything. They can't sell anything. They don't need customer service reps because none of us are going to call them because we don't have any orders to worry about. So all of that has halted, and almost all of their team has been laid off. So approach any frustration or anger that you have right now with that in mind, because I know what I'm about to tell you is going to be very frustrating. Quite literally nothing in building 1, warehouse 1, is salvageable, because as soon as the insurance company assesses all the damages, everything that Notions is going to be paid for by the insurance company becomes owned by the insurance company to do with whatever they want to. Probably most of it, honestly, is going to have to be thrown away, but that's up to the insurance company. Notions themselves does no longer own anything in that warehouse. As soon as that claim is written, it's done. They don't own any of it. That means that any shipments that were already there and not unpacked, shipments that were ready to go out to retailers, and any storage of anything, it's all gone, all of it. So whether or not it's salvageable doesn't matter, because the insurance company is going to own it and not Notions. Currently, in terms of the other warehouses, manufacturers are trying to get Notions to send back what they do have, because Notions can't, their shipping and receiving is huge in building 1. They can't recreate that in building 2 and 3. So what manufacturers are trying to do is get all of their stock back, their inventory back from Notions, so that they can then turn around and ship it themselves to retailers. But here's the problem. Most smaller retailers don't have accounts with the big manufacturers. So manufacturers are coming out and saying, look, we know that you wanted this stuff, and we're going to try and work with you to get it to you, but you have to have an account with us. And so there's an application process, and there's a vetting process, and there's credit, there's all this stuff. In other words, it doesn't happen overnight. And with as many as over 10,000 retailers that Notions works with, all of those retailers are going to have to go to the individual manufacturers to try and create accounts. So it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be months before that all shakes out. So what does that mean for you? Well, first and foremost, patience. All of us just need to be patient and understand that there's no way to take this under control under one umbrella and fix it. It's just going to take some time. Second of all, very specifically, you're going to want to start planning ahead all of your projects, especially anything that you plan to get done between now and the first of the year, because anything that Notions had that was Christmas related that hadn't yet been shipped won't be shipped. Anything that was Halloween related that hasn't been shipped won't be shipped. All of that stuff, anything that you were waiting on, you probably aren't going to see. And if you do, it's going to be really, really close to the actual holiday, because that's really how long it's going to take the manufacturers to kind of flip a switch on what they do and supply smaller retailers. Again, big box stores like Mike's and the Lobby of Hobby aren't going to be impacted by this much, but I will tell you that because there will be a shortage, if you will, they are going to more than likely take advantage of that and increase pricing, because they can. Because if all you can get are the paper pads that are sold at Mike's and the Lobby of Hobby, why wouldn't they raise their prices? So watch for that and understand why. It isn't because they need to, it's just because they can. which is why we really, really, really need to continue to support local stores and online shops that you normally buy from, if you can. Shipments, like I said before, shipments from Notions are in the very least delayed, more than likely canceled. So that is going to limit your access to full lines of items. So let's say that you found a paper pack from Echo Park you really liked and you want to use for Christmas cards, but your local store has not yet gotten in the ephemera, we'll say, for it. Well, they're probably not going to get it unless Echo Park can get it to them quickly. So my suggestion to you is to be willing to work with what is available to you instead of buying from the big boxes and places like the Big A. Because if we all turn to those stores, our small stores aren't going to exist anymore. And unfortunately, what that ultimately means is that the smaller brands aren't going to exist anymore. 49 and Market, for example, only sells through Notions Marketing. They only distribute their product through Notions Marketing. If there's no stores to buy from Notions, they don't exist anymore and they're gone. We Are Makers is one of the big brands that is under the same umbrella as Notions, and they are located at Notions. And so your tools, your Crocodile, your fuse, your cinch supplies, all the way down to the blades that you use for your We Are Makers paper cutter, that's the paper cutter and the scoring board, they aren't going to be available for a while. So if you have them, use them, obviously. But if you don't, just know that it's all going to be very hard to get. And if we don't continue to help out those smaller retailers, some of that stuff is just going to disappear because the manufacturers are going to disappear. And that would be a real shame. What else? Local stores obviously need us. Shop them if you have them. Support them in any way you can. Go to their classes, go to their crops. I know that it's easy to order online from the Big A or wherever, but local shops need us now more than any other time. And there are some really good ones out there that carry smaller brands that don't come from places like Notions. And so look for those, because independent designers like myself can't afford to go through Notions because we can't mass produce. However, if there's a local store that will carry what we do, then we can still supply them with materials like papers. And that's the other thing. Start to seek out some independent designers, and when you find them and you like them, share them with your local scrapbook store or your local craft store. And maybe they can build a connection then with these local designers or these smaller designers, so that you'll have access to amazing stuff that small designers are making, and your store will have access to keep their doors open. Of course, I'm going to tell you that the next big thing is to use what you have, and share what you don't use. So to that end, before I even knew about the Notions issue, I was already going through and purging stuff, and there's 3 creative use stores opening in the next 2 months here in Milwaukee area. So we're really lucky, and they tend to be in bigger cities, creative reuse centers or craft thrift stores. They tend to be in bigger cities because that's where the stuff is. But seek them out, donate to them. I have a whole car full of boxes that I'm taking to one of them on the 17th, and share via my Facebook Marketplace. Put things out there. If you have a paper pad that you know you're just not going to use, put it out there and say, hey, does anybody want this? You don't even necessarily have to sell it. You could just give it to somebody if you wanted to, but you could sell it if you wanted to. You could organize a swap with your friends. Like if you have a group of local friends who all junk journal or scrapbook or whatever, you could organize a swap where everybody meets at somebody's house, and it's nice out, so you could do a yard if you wanted to. And everybody puts out what they brought, and you can just feel free to take whatever. You take their paper, they'll take your paper, whatever. But organize a swap so that everybody can get things that they want and need without having to spend any money. It's a good idea anyway. And like I said, check places like Facebook Marketplace for people who are looking for stuff, as well as for people who are getting rid of stuff. Worst case scenario, shop Etsy, shop whatnot. Try to avoid the big box stores, because the more we shop with them, the more likely we're going to lose our local stores, and the more likely then we'll lose our independent and small designers and manufacturers, and that would be a real shame. Plus, if you avoid the big box stores, you'll avoid raising prices, which is always a good thing, right? Nobody wants higher prices than we already have, Lord knows. So I hope that's helpful. If you have questions, please leave them below and I will do my best to answer them for you. If you want me to cite sources, just Google Notions Marketing, because that'll bring up the fire and it'll tell you everything you need to know. There's plenty of other creators who are doing videos just like this to explain the impacts. I hope that we're able to get through this very quickly and in a group, you know, as opposed to everybody kind of doing their own thing. I guess we'll see. So thanks for listening, guys, and take care.